In this video, I'm going to show you the Uber driver requirements and Lyft driver requirements to drive in Alaska. First things first, let's look at the Uber requirements. And I will say that the Uber requirements and Lyft requirements are pretty much the same, although on the Lyft site, it goes into more detail. So let's start with the kind of basics on the Uber site, then go to Lyft. But like I said, they're pretty much the exact same. First thing, and this is a new thing, by the way, you have to be minimum 25 years or older to drive for Uber and also for Lyft. This is interesting because back in the day, Uber is 21 years or older, Lyft was 25 years or older. Kind of weird that Uber said, you know what, we're going to follow suit with Lyft now, because you can see right here that if you're, like, say, under 25, but you became active prior to September 12th, 2024, you should be okay to continue driving. But now, at the time of this video, you have to be 25 years or older to drive for both Uber and Lyft. Now, if you are younger than 25, but you still want to do a gig type work, Uber Eats is about, I think, 18 or 19 years old, depending on if you're using a car or a motorized scooter, or if you're just using an actual bicycle. So let's say if you are looking for a flexible job and you're in college, for example, you could still do Uber Eats or DoorDash or a delivery service. So keep that in mind. In addition, you must have at least 1 year of licensed driving experience, 3 years if you're under 25. Doesn't really apply anymore, so basically you need at least 1 year of licensed driving experience. You need an in-state license and an eligible four-door vehicle. If you don't have a vehicle, or actually your vehicle doesn't qualify, you can rent one through Uber or Lyft. Then, of course, you need a valid U.S. driver's license, proof of residency in your city, state, or province, in this case, Alaska, proof of vehicle insurance, and have a driver profile photo. And then, after signing up, you're going to complete a screening online. It's going to review both your criminal history, so a normal background check, but also your driving background check. So keep in mind, if you have 6 or 7 speeding tickets on your record, that might compromise your ability to be able to drive for Uber and Lyft. They might deny you, right? Now going to Lyft, and like I said, Lyft is way more descriptive and in-depth than Uber. I don't know why Uber's so basic, right, in terms of the requirements that they give you, but here's what it comes down to, right? In terms of driving in Alaska, of course, you need a smartphone with the Lyft app or the Uber app. In terms of the vehicle requirements, we can start there for your vehicle. 2012 or newer, at least the exact time in this video. 4 doors, 5 to 8 seats, including the drivers. And keep in mind, I'll talk about this a bit later in the video. If you do have a car that, let's say, has 6 or 7 seats, you could qualify for Lyft XL or Uber XL to pick up more people. That equals more money in your pocket. Not a taxi, stretch limousine, or non-express drive rental vehicle. And then lastly, not titled as salvage, non-repairable, rebuilt, or any other equivalent classification. In addition, like I just said, your vehicle could qualify for premium ride types, so you can earn more. So let's say if you have a car that's a very expensive car, like a Mercedes or something, you could potentially do things like Uber Black or Lyft Black, Uber Lux or Lyft Lux. Those can pay a lot. And like I said as well, Express Drive is the name of Lyft's rental program. If let's say you have a car that doesn't qualify, let's say it's a 2-door vehicle, or let's say you don't have a car at all, you can rent one. And I'd say renting, it does depend on a lot of different factors. You're looking at about $200 to $300 a week to rent a car to drive. Now, in terms of the driver requirements, driver's license, 25 years or older, like I said earlier, pass a driver screening, which reviews your driving history and criminal background check. So keep in mind, both Uber and Lyft does review a background check, which is typical, but also your driving history. In terms of the documents, you need a profile photo, vehicle registration, personal vehicle insurance, annual vehicle inspection, and Juno business registration. We're going to talk about that in a second. But basically, you need, of course, vehicle insurance, and I also suggest having rideshare insurance as well. And then once a year, your car has to be inspected. Now, what's good about this is you can do this once a year, and that inspection form you can submit to both Uber and Lyft, which is kind of nice. You get it inspected once, you submit it to both Uber and Lyft, and they say, cool, you can continue driving for the next year. Now, in terms of your vehicle inspection, like I said, you must get an annual vehicle inspection. You print out this form, so I'll show it to you if you want to see it. Going here, right? Kind of typical, right? You just go to any mechanic, you show them this, get it all inspected, they sign off on it, and you get to continue driving. In addition, like I said, past inspection forms from other ride-sharing companies may also be accepted. Basically meaning, if let's say you get inspected through a mechanic and they have the Uber form and it says Uber on it, you could still submit that Uber form to Lyft. It's not like Lyft says, hey, it says Uber on it, we're not going to look at it. No, either form can go vice versa. Now, Going down here, you have to do a virtual inspection. This is new as well when it comes to Lyft. And it's kind of funny. It sounds like a riddle almost. But in terms of your virtual appointment, you need to be outside of your vehicle and have a friend, a penny, your keys, your vehicle, and the VIN. And when you use the Zoom app to talk to Lyft, you have to have your seatbelts buckled to show that they can buckle, headlights and hazard lights on, turn off Bluetooth. You have to have a mobile device that's charged, of course. You don't want it to die when talking to them on Zoom, and have good signal, right? Whether you connect to Wi-Fi or use your data. You need a penny to measure the tread on your tires, and then a friend, because you do have to do the brake light inspection. So either A, have a friend like hold the phone while you sit in the car and turn on your brake lights, or B, get a tripod. I do suggest if you don't have one, get a tripod anyway. Like I film all my videos with my iPhone or with my smartphone. Having a tripod in this day and age, in my opinion, is super useful. You can get one on Amazon for literally like $20, right? Now going to the Juno business registration. Here's where things are kind of weird. When it comes to Uber and Lyft, in terms of the requirements, the reason why I do all these requirement videos is because state to state, there's very different requirements. And not even just that, but within the same state, there could be different requirements per city. After being approved to drive, drivers in the city and borough of Juneau must register with the CBJ's sales tax office. So for more information, I go here, right? And I can look through all this information and sign up. In addition, if you no longer wish to drive for Lyft, please contact the CBJ sales tax office to close your account. So this is only, as I say, in the city and borough of Juneau, you have to do this. So let's say if you're in Fairfax or Anchorage, you should be okay. But in this case, you have to do an extra step. Kind of weird, like I said, how when it comes to these requirements, every state's a bit different. And even within the same state, every city can be a little bit different. And then lastly, after signing up, getting everything good to go, you do need to put the emblem on your car. I do think you should get one from Lyft and one from Uber. They can give you this for free. So I will say that, and to have it on your car when driving, right on kind of the passenger side on the front windshield. I guess you could always put Lyft there and also drive for Uber at the same time, but I think it's not a bad idea. Have both. Just have both, doesn't hurt. And then lastly, let's talk about the way it's going to work when it comes to you driving. This is something to know before you start driving. Besides these best practices of following the airport rules, don't accept street calls, meaning don't, let's say, accept cash for like a random ride. This is a big thing. The biggest one, I will say, is the standard time limit. So when it comes to the time limit to drive for Uber and also for Lyft, you must take a full uninterrupted 6-hour break for every 12 hours you're in driver mode. Basically, what I say with a lot of drivers is the maximum time you can typically drive during a day is 12 hours. Now, there are a couple of things I do want to mention when it comes to driving for Uber and Lyft. In general, you may be wondering, with all this being said, you sign up, you get ready to drive, how much money can you make? As you can imagine, this is a big question for a lot of people. On average, it does depend upon a lot of different factors, but basically, I'd say on average, 20 to 25 an hour. That is the expected hourly rate when it comes to driving for Uber and for Lyft. And I do suggest getting into some pro tips. One, drive during the peak hours. As you probably know, it's kind of like Uber and Lyft 101. Morning and evening commutes, Friday and Saturday nights, are the best times to drive where you're going to make the most amount of money. In addition, sign up with both apps. And I know a lot of people say like, hey, in this one area, Lyft is more popular or Uber is more popular. Or I know some drivers say, you know what? I only drive for Uber, it's better. Or I only drive for Lyft, it's better. Sign up with both, because one of the best ways to maximize your earnings, in addition to driving during the peak hours, is bonuses and incentives. And this depends weekend to weekend. Some weekends, Uber says, hey, if you do this amount of rides, we're going to give you a bunch of money. Or Lyft says the same exact thing, right? It can go back and forth. And by signing up with both apps as well, sometimes on a random Friday night, Uber's just popping off, if I'd say it like that, and you're going to get a lot more money driving for Uber. Vice versa for Lyft. When I first started driving, I only signed up with Lyft. I was like, you know what? I feel like Lyft pays more. I'm really only going to do Lyft. I'm not going to do Uber. I was driving for Lyft. Then I decided to sign up with Uber. And when I did, Uber's paying way more money. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why was I driving for Lyft? I stopped driving for Lyft. I only drove for Uber. Doing Uber for a while. Then, after a little bit, for whatever reason, when I was driving in Boston, Lyft started paying more. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm done with Uber. I'm going back to Lyft. And I kind of went back and forth. Definitely sign up with both apps. In addition, there are a couple of things I do suggest you kind of have to have, even though they're not required by definition by Uber and Lyft. The first thing I got to say is rideshare insurance. I say this in so many videos, and the reason why is in this day and age, because Uber and Lyft is so common and it's very prevalent everywhere, a lot of insurance companies now ask, hey, you're driving, you have a normal auto insurance. Are you planning on driving for any rideshare or taxi-like service, such as Uber and Lyft and any other ride-sharing app? The reason why is, as you can imagine, you're going to be on the road more. You're going to be driving more. You're going to have people in your car. And so the last thing you want to do is get into an accident. And again, you never know. You're going to be on the road more. So statistically speaking, it's more likely to happen. You get into an accident, and for whatever reason, your insurance doesn't cover you. And they'll use any excuse they can, probably not surprising, any excuse they can to not cover you. So make sure you get rideshare insurance. It's an extra thing on top of that. So either A, your insurance might charge you an extra $10 a month or whatever, or B, you can go to a secondary insurance company that deals just with ride sharing. So you have almost two insurances, right? Rideshare insurance can cost anywhere between $6 and maybe like 20-ish extra dollars a month. So keep that in mind. I'm telling you, well worth it. Well worth it, just in case anything happens. In addition to ride sharing, in terms of things you need in your car, again, these are not required, but I think almost necessary. One, get a dash cam. This is almost like, I look at it kind of similar to insurance, where hopefully you never have to use it. Hopefully it's just there and you never have to use the dash cam footage, but it's there just in case. And get a 3-way one, or at least a 2-way one. It records the outside of your car, but also the inside. As we all know, stuff happens, whether it's a passenger doing something to you that crosses an aggressive line, or B, which just happened. Let's say you and a passenger get into a dispute. The passenger leaves. You're like, oh man, that guy or girl is a jerk. No big deal. It happens a lot, more than you think, where a passenger, out of revenge or whatever, retaliates by saying, oh, my driver is drunk. My driver's doing this. Then Uber and Lyft deactivates your account, meaning you can't drive. And you're like, shoot, but it wasn't my fault. They just made this up. If you have that dash cam footage, you can submit it to Lyft or Uber and say, hey, no, I was fine. Here's the footage of what happened. They were drunk. They were just being a jerk. And this happens more than you think. There's been times I've heard of some passengers. I don't know why passengers still think this, but passengers are like, oh, why'd you charge me so much for this ride? And as a driver, you're like, I don't make the prices. I'm just driving. Lyft and Uber pays me. They make the prices. And the passenger gets mad at you because the ride costs so much. Maybe it's like a surge price or surge time or whatever. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just driving. They make the prices. This is not on me. This is on Uber and Lyft. But the passenger so gets mad at you, makes something up to try to get a free ride or to get the ride refunded, and this falls on you. Have the dash cam in case anything happens outside your vehicle or inside. In addition, I also suggest having a phone mount. I feel like a phone mount is almost standard now in any car. I mean, everybody uses their phone GPS, so I do suggest having that. In addition, on top of this, I suggest using Google Maps. Huge fan of Google Maps. Might as well say no affiliation, although it'd be cool if I did, if I was sponsored by Google Maps. But a cool pro tip, especially in places like Alaska, I know cell phone service might be a little bit spotty depending on where you are. Make sure you download offline maps. What you can do is zoom out where you are and download offline maps. And I do this pretty much anytime I'm traveling, regardless of where I am. And then what that does is, let's say your cell phone service crashes, or let's say you're in a place with no service or whatever's happening, you can still drive and use the GPS even without service, right? So keep that in mind. Kind of a cool pro tip when it comes to using the GPS. But get a phone mount. I mean, I still am in shock in this day and age, even if you're not driving for Uber and Lyft. When people are driving and they have their phone GPS and they're doing this, like sometimes called the GPS, the GPS is like a fun joke, but they're using the phone GPS and they're doing this like head bob motion. And I'm like, one, that must be annoying on like your neck to do this. But two, incredibly unsafe. So just get a phone mount. You can get one on Amazon for like $10. I mean, I've even seen some at the dollar store for obviously $1. Or isn't Dollar Tree now like $1.50 per item, which is kind of hypocritical? I don't know, or ironic because it's called Dollar Tree. Anyway, I digress. Lastly, get a phone charger. I feel like these three things, a dash cam, phone mount, and phone charger, I feel like a lot of people have anyway, but I do want to mention them on this video because if you're running the Uber and Lyft app and let's say a streaming service like Spotify or Pandora, which is what I typically do, or let's say you have, of course, the GPS running and other apps on your phone in general, your phone's going to die a lot quicker than normal. Have a phone charger. I do suggest, and this is what I suggest having for customer service, because a lot of people sometimes ask me, hey, do I need candy, snacks, gum, mints, water, that kind of stuff in my car? No. In terms of customer service, you don't really need any of that. I do think napkins are not a bad idea just because things can spill. That's a big pro tip. Napkins are very helpful, or even like a roll of paper towels that you can get anywhere. But also, I suggest getting maybe one of those charging ports that has 2 USB slots. One, you plug into your phone. So your phone's always charging or whatever. And then 2, maybe get like a long cord, because this always happens. You're driving and someone goes, hey, my phone's about to die. Can I use your charger? And you can unplug your phone and do this, or you have one right there and you can pass it back. There's also ones you can get on Amazon for, again, like $5. They're almost multi-port. So it's one cord, then they split into like the iPhone charger, a USB-C charger, a micro USB charger. So basically, they have a bunch of ports. That way, regardless of the phone the person has, you just hand it back and plug it in. And again, these are only a few pro tips that I have to not only have a great time driving for Uber and Lyft, but also make more money. And in the description below, I have a huge video of 25 massive pro tips for new drivers. I highly suggest watching that. That way you can make more money driving for Uber and Lyft.